Today, we're going to take a look at the foundations of Missouri by exploring its two earliest colonial settlements. First, the farming village of St. Genevieve, and then the ambitious trading post of St. Louis. These two towns really set the stage for the state we know today. But to really get this story, we've got to go back even further. Before that iconic gateway arch defined the skyline, what was St. Louis known for? What was there?
Well, the answer is mounds, and not just a few, hundreds of them. See, for centuries before any Europeans showed up, this area was a major hub for the Mississippian civilization. This drawing from 1839 shows how St. Louis was literally built on and around these ancient earthworks. It even earned the nickname Mound City.
And this is the crucial point. The French didn't just step into some empty wilderness. Not at all. They were entering a landscape with a really deep history, home to established nations like the Missouri and, especially important for trade, the powerful Osage Nation. All right, let's start with Missouri's oldest permanent European settlement. This is a town that wasn't born from some grand plan, but from a simple, powerful need for good, fertile land. Sainte Genevieve. So picture this. Around 1750, a bunch of French-Canadian farmers crossed the Mississippi from Illinois. Their whole goal was to farm this huge 7,000-acre common field they called Le Grand Champ. But their prime spot right on the floodplain came with a huge risk. And sure enough, in 1785, a catastrophic flood hit, forcing the entire village to pack everything up and move to its current, much safer location on higher ground. And when they rebuilt, they used this very distinct style of architecture. You can see it right here in the Green Tree Tavern. Now, take a close look at how it's built. It's probably not like any log cabin you've ever seen before. And that's because it was built using a method called poteau sur soleil. I know, it's a mouthful. But instead of stacking logs horizontally, like we're used to seeing, French carpenters set these heavy timber posts straight up, vertically, on a stone foundation. It's a technique they brought all the way from Normandy, France. This architectural drawing is fantastic. It gives us like an X-ray view of the building's bones. You can see exactly how this method worked. Look at those vertical posts forming the walls. It was a remarkably sturdy design that created the totally unique look of French colonial Missouri. Okay, now let's travel upriver to our other settlements. Unlike St. Genevieve, which just kind of grew out of a need for farmland, St. Louis was born from a very specific strategic vision to completely dominate the Western fur trade. The founding of St. Louis happened in this crazy whirlwind of political change. Right as France was secretly handing over its territory west of the Mississippi to Spain, this merchant named Pierre Laclede gets an exclusive fur trading grant. In late 1763, he and his young stepson, Auguste Chouteau, paddled upriver and picked out the perfect spot. Just a few months later, bam! February 1764, Chouteau is back with 30 men, and they start building. Years and years later, Auguste Chouteau remembered Laclade's grand vision for that spot. He wasn't just seeing a little trading post. No, he saw a future metropolis, one of the finest cities of America. That ambition was baked right into the DNA of St. Louis from day one. I mean, the city was just designed for success. Its location on high bluffs kept it safe from the floods that were always hitting St. Genevieve. Its entire reason for being was the fur trade, and that absolutely required a partnership with the Osage. But this intense focus on business meant farming was kind of an afterthought, which is how early St. Louis got its nickname Pain-Court, or short of bread. So we've got these two really different settlements, one for farming, one for business. But they're existing in a territory that was, at least on paper, run by Spain. So what was life actually like on this unique French frontier? Well, the differences between the two towns were pretty stark. You had St. Genevieve, the farming community on the floodplain, which was even nicknamed Misère, or misery, because of all its hardships. And then you had St. Louis, the trading hub up on the bluffs, called Pain-Court. They were really just two sides of the same French colonial coin, each playing a totally different part in the economy. And here's the fascinating part. Even though Spain officially governed this land for 40 years, they ruled with a really light touch. So the culture on the ground stayed overwhelmingly French. People spoke French, they followed French customs. The towns felt like a little piece of France just plopped down on the Mississippi. And you absolutely can't tell the story of French St. Louis without talking about its founding mother. Marie-Therese Bourgeois-Chouteau, Pierre Laclade's partner and Auguste's mother, was the matriarch of the city. But she was way more than that. She was a really savvy businesswoman who was a central figure in the city's social and economic life for half a century.
a true powerhouse. But this unique little French-speaking, Spanish-ruled world, it wasn't going to last forever. A huge, monumental event was just around the corner that would change the destiny of the entire region. And then, 1803. Napoleon sells the massive Louisiana Territory to the United States. Almost overnight, the people living in St. Genevieve and St. Louis found themselves under the authority of a brand new English-speaking nation. And with that new flag came a flood of new people. Just how profound was this change? How quickly did everything shift? Get this, within a single year, just 1 year, Americans already made up more than 60% of the population in Upper Louisiana. The French colonial world that had defined this region for 50 years was just like that, suddenly and completely outnumbered. Its language and culture just got swamped by this tide of American westward expansion. The original French towns became part of a new American story, but their foundations, they were still there. And it leaves us with a final thought. From street names and architecture to family dynasties and legal traditions, how does this unique French and Spanish colonial past still shape the region today?